Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video.
So over the past few weeks, it's been no secret on this channel that I've been shooting with the Nikon Z30. Now, as I've mentioned recently, I've been wanting to do a little bit of bike packing, so cycling with my camera gear, and that is the reason why I've started using this camera, because it's small, it's lightweight, it's compact, amongst some other things. But to my surprise, I've enjoyed shooting with such a setup, so much so that I'm going through some considerations. So I was going to head up to EBOOK, which is the biggest mountain you can see off in the background there, currently bathed in cloud. However, indeed, it's a bank holiday weekend. That's the highest point in Wales. I'm not fancying that. I've come somewhere that is so much quiet, I've not seen anyone on my adventure so far, and we get these majestic views of the whole mountain range, of the whole horseshoe from this perspective as well. Good stuff. So we have got some glorious landscapes for this afternoon's photography with the Nikon Z30. But let's revert to what I was talking about before, about what it is that I've, I suppose, fallen in love with really whilst using this camera. I've only really been using him for about a month, on and off. Now, if you don't watch me regularly, I shoot with a Nikon Z7, a full frame camera. It's quite big, it's quite bulky. And to put it simply, I have thoroughly enjoyed shooting with something a bit more lightweight, but I find this quite difficult to explain because it's not got anything to do with the weight of it. I'm not really that bothered about carrying the weight. When I say the lightweight stuff, I think what I actually mean is compact. It's so small, it's lovely. And look, my Nikon Z7, it's not massive, it's not a huge burden to me, but I don't know what it is. If anyone else is like that, please comment below. I think I'm just loving shooting with something like, it feels like a little mini camera. It's class. You know that thing like when you go out with your phone and it feels really liberating because you haven't got a load of gear with you. I think, to get to my point, that is where I'd like my photography to start going. Minimal gear, lightweight, minimal faff, just so that I can be out and enjoy the photography without thinking too much about gear and not having loads of gear as a burden. I'll tell you what, sometimes in landscape photography, especially when you're out in the mountains, I suppose, scenes, actually photographs, just present themselves to you. They say, yeah mate, you've made yourself a nice little bit of effort there climbing up the mountain, there's a photograph here. This is one of those very moments, those very scenes. Unbelievable. We're on the path here, ladies and gents, and this lovely tree here, I think it might be a rowan tree, please correct me if I'm wrong. He is leaning perfectly into the mountain range that I was just talking about a second ago, into EBOOK. Absolutely perfect. The conditions are pretty nice. You know, we're not far from midday, so I mean, it's quite bright, the sun's high in the sky, the light's pretty harsh, but so what? This is absolutely lovely. So I'm going to shoot this as a panorama. I wouldn't usually do that, but I've only got the 24 to 200 millimeter lens, and 24 millimeter on the crop sensor, like I've mentioned a lot recently, is just too zoomed in. It's really not that wide. So unless I go further back that way into all of these ferns, I've kind of got to shoot it as a panorama really, but it's fine. I love doing panos, I enjoy doing them handheld, and it's no problem whatsoever. So I'm taking several shots from left to right at 24 millimeters, and we're taking them at 1/200th of a second, f11 and ISO 64. And I think what's really important when you're doing handheld panoramas especially is just make that overlap really, really small between each photograph. Just move your camera a tiny little bit each time, even if you have to take 20 photographs across quite a small scene. Just do that. The last thing that you want to do is go too far between each shot and then your software is unable to stitch them all together. . Wow, so we're headed in this direction here, and look at that, all I can see up there is crags, I can see heather. I know from the maps, from the OS maps, that there's a few scattered lakes up there as well, and that as the background and all these mountains of, oh, that can only be a good thing. North Wales, man, unreal. So when I was taking that panorama then, I think I briefly alluded to the only sort of problem I've been having while shooting with the Z30, and that is the lenses. This 24-200, I didn't buy it for my Z30, I bought it for my Nikon Z7. This is really a full frame lens. It's to be used with full frame cameras, well, that's what it was designed for. So that's where I've gone down this road of, oh, I'll just get a new lens for the Nikon Z30. And I was doing that for days and days until very recently I realised that there was one thing missing on a Z30 that is an absolute deal breaker. It completely rules it out for me as a stills photography camera. And that is simply the fact that the Z30 does not have a viewfinder. Game over straight away. So, I mean, if it did have a viewfinder, I'd be delighted. I'd have probably got a new lens for the Nikon Z30, and I wouldn't have even made this video. I'd just be out using the Nikon Z30 for my stills photography and loving it. But I don't know about yous, please comment below. I'd be really interested on this because I've never thought about it too much, but I cannot have a stills photography camera without a viewfinder. Full stop, I cannot do it. And this is coming from somebody, I use the live view a lot, especially because I've always used tripods loads. I like using the LCD screen for composing, for exposing, for loads of different things. So I'm not like a strict viewfinder user, but the times when I do use one, I love it. And especially if I'm wanting to shoot handheld more often, I think I'd just be mad for a viewfinder, to be honest. So that is what has sent me down the road of thinking, I want to switch up my camera gear and start looking at something new. Now, to get the shot that I want here, I'm having to do a vertical panorama, which is something that I've been doing quite a lot recently. It's an alternative to having a wide focal length or a wide angle lens. And the few that I've done seem to have come out really well. This one seems to be technically a little bit more difficult because we're dealing with moving water and stuff down here. But again, it's another good test just to see if this works. So 24mm, which is of course the widest that I can go. And all I'm doing is starting up at the top, facing up towards the clouds and the tops of the mountain range, and then moving downwards until the camera's pointing right down at our feet, really down here where we've got this stream. And I think it's going to work out well. I would do this handheld, to be honest, just as a tester, but the only reason that I'm not is because I want a long shutter speed to capture the movement of the water. It's 1/6 of a second. I'm not shooting that. I'm not shooting at that speed with the Nikon Z30. We've got the polarizer on and the 3-stop neutral density filter so that we can get that 1/6 of a second. But you know what? I think it's going to be all right. It'll probably be like a portrait orientation, and it'll have a bit of a wide angle feel to it, hopefully. So fingers crossed that works. Oh man, this is quality. Look at this scene. We've got dry stone walls leading into all of those mountains. We've got all of that heather behind yous, which we've reached now. Crags, we're not even up at the lakes yet. I can see a little waterfall right off in the distance flying down the mountain. It's unbelievable. Things are looking good. Now, before we move on and see what else we can photograph and chat away about my little micro camera dilemma, I'd like to say another massive thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. So yeah, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that you can use to build your own website. And look, if you've had a dream to build your own website, perhaps you've put it off for months and years because you're intimidated by the prospect, this is where I recommend Squarespace so much, because they make the process of building that website really, really easy. You add a few little bits of text and images on top of one of Squarespace's wonderful templates, exactly like I did, by the way. My website's through Squarespace, and within a couple of hours you'll have your website up and running. It is so easy. So once you've got your website looking how you want it to look, it will automatically look brilliant on computers, on tablets, iPads, phones, all of that, which is so much peace of mind. And you know, if you're just using it as a portfolio for your images or something like that, that is absolutely brilliant that Squarespace do all of that for you. Now, as easy as it is to build your website through Squarespace, and again, trust me on that, I was really intimidated about it. I was thinking I'd never have a website because how the heck am I going to build one? But Squarespace have got brilliant customer service as well, award-winning customer service, in fact. So if you do hit a few speed bumps along the way whilst you're building it, they'll be there to lend a helping hand. Absolutely fantastic. So if you'd like to give Squarespace a go, head over to squarespace.com/Henry Turner. Get yourself a 14-day free trial. Nothing to lose. There'll be a link in the video description below. And if you like your free trial, make sure you use the offer code Henry Turner at checkout for a whopping 10% off your first purchase. So yeah, I've spent the last couple of days really just sort of researching about which camera I'm going to get. And look, I really wanted to mention this because, I mean, to be honest, I don't really talk about gear and stuff that much on this channel. I just go out and take photographs and I love it. But I don't want to slag off the whole gear thing. What I mean by that is photographers and people, it's so easy, isn't it, to just say, oh, gear's not important. It doesn't matter a bit. The best camera is the one that you've got with you. All of that to an extent is true, but I do believe that there's like a really positive, a really nice side to buying new gear and experimenting with new gear and fantasizing over new gear if you genuinely believe it's going to benefit your photography, not if you're just in a whirlwind of consumerism. And what I'm trying to say is this feels like one of the nice sides of purchasing something new. I feel like this next setup that I'm going to get, hopefully is going to be something that's going to really inspire me to get out with my camera. You know, it's going to inspire me to get out of the door. I'm hoping it's going to be a joy to use, especially because like the Z30, I'm going to want something that's lightweight. And to be completely honest with you, I think I know which camera and lens even I'm going to get. However, I don't want to mention it just yet for a couple of reasons. Firstly, and most importantly, I would love to ask yous. I am certainly not an expert in photography in general, but I'm definitely not an expert in gear. Just because usually I get what I want and my head's not in the whole world of gear, whatever that means. But advice, anyone, comment below. I want it to be like the Z30. It needs a viewfinder like I've mentioned, but the camera and lens combo has to be lightweight. So by that I mean, I don't really want something that is that much heavier or bigger than the Z30. I'd be reluctant to get anything because I sort of know the size of this and it's good. But secondly, the second reason why I don't really want to say it is because I'm the type of person to like sleep on it for a couple of nights until I make the purchase, if you know what I mean. But yeah, in saying that, this video is probably in the past a little bit to you, so I'd have maybe already purchased the camera by now. I don't know just yet, we'll see. But I'd love to hear your thoughts anyway, because that might not be the case. So I don't know about yous, but I think that is quite enough of the gear talk for the rest of this afternoon. Let's enjoy our photography. We've got a brilliant camera here and that's all that matters, isn't it? I've got a couple of priorities now. I mean, you can sort of tell by the lay of the land here that the lake's probably just over the brow of this hill here. I'd like to get up to that lake and take a photograph if I can use him as foreground somehow. But secondly, this is probably the most important one, is I do want to get stuck into some of this heather that's off here in the background. The old heather season seems to have bypassed me this year somehow. I mean, I haven't really been chasing the heather, so that's probably why, but I love having a heather photograph in my calendar every year for September or August if I can. I think my calendar this year, it didn't get a heather photograph, so I feel like I'd really like one. By the way, my 2024 calendar is still available for sale. A massive thank you to everybody that supports me with the purchase of my calendar. it means the absolute world. But yeah, there's a good few left, to be honest with you, and any further purchases would be greatly appreciated. If you want it for yourself, if you want to get it as a gift, that'll be in the video description below. But yeah, thank you so much, I really appreciate that. And yeah, let's see if we can get a heather photograph that will be worthy of the 2025 calendar. God, 2025, man, that sounds mad, doesn't it? Right, so I have, how do I put this now? I have somewhat reluctantly come over to the heather. I said it was my priority, but you may be able to see in the distance the path actually goes that way up to the top of this ridge, and actually on the top of that ridge there, just a little bit further, there's another lake about this size. How cool is that? And that's got a bit of me written all over it, but I'm going to prioritise the photography and see if I can get one of these heather photographs. And look at this, I'll show you how things may be unfolding quite well here. We've got this lovely section here, a few crags as well. I always love the contrast that you get between the vibrancy of the heather and the kind of plain greyness of these crags. It's the same in the Lake District, it's brilliant. And then of course we've got that mountain range once again, absolutely brilliant. And then to be honest, even actually in this direction, that looks fantastic as well, especially now with the way that the light's hitting it. But I'm sure I can find a way to, piece together some sort of composition with this heather and that background. So where I am stood right now on this lovely little rock seems to be a good spot for me to just chill out and wait for the sun to dip down and take my time trying to find a nice composition with our heather. Right, so the sun has dipped down just a little bit more now, and I think this is probably the right time to take the shot. In fact, the sun's just gone behind a little bit of cloud, so you can see it's a small bit shaded down here right in front of us. So I'll wait for the sun to come back out again and light up this area. But I'm settled on my composition, and all I've had to do really, right, is just try my best to avoid the temptation to just stick my camera down here and just say, oh, the heather's here, look, heather in the foreground, and not actually compose the photograph. It's really tempting because it all just looks nice, but I've still had to take a little bit of time just to try and get everything as ordered and as deliberately placed as I possibly can to actually make this into what feels like to me a nice photograph with a nice flow to it. So I'm shooting this as a horizontal panorama, the classic panorama, if you will, and 1/125th of a second f11 and ISO 100. So for every single shot, those settings are exactly the same. And yeah, I've just tried my best to place everything really neatly underneath the mountain range we've got off in the background. The light's nice. Like I said, I'm just going to wait for it to hit the foreground. And yeah, it's about 5 or 6 shots from left to right. I've made sure I've exposed for the brightest part of the whole panorama. You've got to think of it all as one photograph, which is going to be that side, because you can probably tell the sun's over there. And then yeah, I say 5 or 6 shots, just however many images it takes. And then it's just a case of shooting the panel. Oh, I'll tell you what, I've completely changed my mind. I think this has been a classic case of overworking the scene, overcomplicating it, to be honest. I don't need to do this as a panorama. Yes, 24mm is not that wide here on my crop sensor camera, but all I need to do is step back a little bit and take the image in one shot, because essentially all this scene is bottom half of the image is heather and rocks, top half of the image is the mountain range and the clouds. That is it. So 24mm, like I said, step back a little bit, f11, ISO 100 and 1/100th of a second. I'll say the only thing I've got to do is get a little bit low down as to try and accentuate the heather in the frame a little bit. I'll tell you what, the clouds are really, really nice as well. And we'll grab that now. And that's it. Didn't need to be so complicated. So just another reminder that I would appreciate any comments below about any advice for a nice small camera and lens system that I could use going forward. That would be quality. And secondly, once again, my 2024 calendar. If you would like a beautifully printed calendar. So hello everybody. If it's all right, I just wanted to interject for a quick moment in this video in the future. Today's date is the 14th of September as I'm talking right now, and I've just had my final batch of calendars delivered. My previously mentioned calendar, and I'm extremely proud of this product. And I just wanted to say once again, a big thank you to anybody that's decided to purchase one and support my work. It really does mean everything. And if this is something that you perhaps like to purchase, I just wanted to let you know that it goes such a long way in supporting what I do here on YouTube, and of course supporting my photography as well. And throughout the year, this is probably the best thing that you can purchase to support me, and it means the absolute world. But, and I never mentioned this enough, which is a bit daft, but besides supporting me, you are getting a really nice, beautiful product, really well printed from a really reputable company, and I'm extremely proud to be sending these out. It's really well printed, like I said, and it's got the boxes. The boxes are back, so you can actually write things in it, which is brilliant. And this is actually the first calendar that I've designed myself from start to finish. In years gone by with previous calendars, I've actually had a little bit of help. But yeah, thank you so much for your support. It means the world. I'm so grateful for any more purchases. And secondly, I've had my eye operation. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it very well. I'm not really sure what I'm doing here, but it's a little bit bloodshot. Other than that, the operation went really well. And I've just got to take loads and loads of eye drops and rest and recover at home, which I actually find really difficult because I feel like I'm sitting around doing nothing, but it's got to be done. So yeah, that's the update on that. Back to the video. Like I said, any calendar purchases, thank you so much, man. It means the world, and there will be a link in the video description that will take you straight to my calendars, and I will ship them anywhere in the world. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you all ever so much. I really mean that. And I shall see you on the next adventure. Out.